Hi, and welcome to the Get Local podcast. I'm so excited that you have joined us today. As always, you, our listeners, are what make us successful. We're here today in the studio, 864 Sound in Greenville, South Carolina, to talk with our guest today, Daniel Rumfelt. And I do want to say before we begin, welcome to the studio today, Daniel. But I want to let you know, as our listeners, that we are not promoting any of the candidates, whether they're Democratic or Republican, but Daniel had reached out to us and asked to come on, and we'd be more than happy if there's other candidates that are out there running for any offices and you'd like to be on our show, just reach out to me and let me know. Daniel, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
Well, I did a little bit of research on your website, and I know you reached out to me and said that you would like to come on our show since we talk to not only business owners, but also the residents of the upstate and York County. And you'd like to talk a little bit about your running for office, correct?
Yes, ma'am, I am.
Okay, tell me what you're running for.
Thank you. I'm running for the South Carolina House of Representatives for District 28. It's the southern part of Greenville County. This will be my first office I'm seeking, and I'm running to bring, basically I'm running for my kids. I want to bring change that when they grow up, it won't be as difficult as it is right now in the state.
Well, I think when you have children, you always have a little different perspective, right?
Absolutely. Yes, ma'am.
All of a sudden things matter that maybe didn't matter before
Right.
when it was just you and your spouse. So I think that's a really good reason to run. So tell me, where is District 28?
Well, District 28 starts about around Conisty, around Ashmore Bridge Road area in Malden. It goes all the way down to Princeton in southern parts of Greenville County. Now, it does cover western side of Simpsonville around West Georgia Road, and even down Fork Shoals, down out in the farmland area. Well, big agriculture is huge down there. And even places out west towards the basically towards Belton, all out through there, the county line with Anderson. Yeah,
That's a big territory.
it is. It's
a big district.
That's a lot of shoe. You're going through a lot of shoes lately.
A lot of shoes. Now, I was looking online, and it looks like your incumbent, Ashley Trantham, am I saying her name correctly?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. It looks like she's not going to run again, correct?
That's correct.
So, so who does that leave running? Are you running on your own, or do you have other candidates that are going to be running?
To my knowledge, on the date of this podcast, it's another challenger. Her name is Miss Carrie Smith. She's from Simpsonville, I believe, and we're the only two that have declared to run in the House of Representatives District 28 for this year.
Okay.
A Republican primary.
A Republican primary. Now, tell me a little bit. Obviously, Ashley was in there for 2 years. Is that correct?
Well, she went in about 2018. She took it was a special session, and she took over. She's been a great asset to the area, and like I said, she did a great job.
Well, wonderful. For our listeners then who really, they really liked Ashley. Obviously, she's been in there for a while then. For our listeners who really liked her, what are some of the things that she stood for that you would like to continue to carry on?
Basically, family values, traditional family values, and basically the she was very conservative in her voting, very conservative in her thinking and voting, and she really made an impact in my area. And I like to be that. I like to be a decisive candidate and a decisive representative for that district, just as she was.
Okay, I think that's great. Now, what about differentiated you from her? So if she was still running today, what would you say is the difference between you and Ashley?
I would say that thinking about it, I would use a lot of different ways going about appropriations bills.
Okay.
Um, as many of you know, nobody ever gets everything they ask for in these budget bills.
Right.
I always live by the philosophy that you gain an inch and you give a millimeter, and as long as you're getting the most of what you want, I feel like you're making a huge progress and a step in the right direction.
So what do you think is going to be, you've never served in politics before. So what do you think is going to be your greatest challenge stepping into that political role?
I think when I'm elected in November and I start the first session in January 2025, I feel like the hardest part would be probably getting used to who can I trust, who in there because I'm sure there's camps anywhere you go to, any new businesses you go to, you come in as a grunt, and you go in there and you try to figure out which party, which group of people reflect your views and reflect your values. And I think the hardest part is just for anybody starting anywhere new is actually finding a place that you belong, and I believe that'll be the toughest
Yeah.
couple of weeks.
I think most people who get into politics, once they get in, they're like, this is a little different than I thought, right?
Right. Yes.
You know,
Yes.
you make these promises to your constituents, and your goal is to go in and fulfill those promises, and then the negotiations begin.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And everybody understands that. Everybody knows that where I come from is what I want, but what the other side wants, or what the PD region wants is all different, but we have to come together as the Republican Party. We have to come together to move this state forward in the correct right direction in the Republican policy way,
So tell me a little bit about, are you going out in the field? Do you go to town halls, or are you going to restaurants and talking to folks?
Right.
How are you getting out?
Right now, I'm doing a lot of door knocking. Right now, I've been meeting a lot of people. I met from Conisty, the Conisty precinct, to the Ranch Creek, to Reedy Fork. Right now I'm in Moore Creek. Right now, the precinct, and
Okay.
slowly moving way south. But my goal is to talk to everybody. One on one. I want to have a conversation. I want you to know who I am. I want to know you. Want you to know where I come from, and so you could feel good about me. I want you to feel like you could trust me. I want you to feel like I'm always there for you. And I want you to feel like how you feel about your neighbor, if it's a good neighbor. And I want you to feel like I want to gain your trust and support.
Well, Daniel, as you go out and you're knocking on these doors, obviously you're running into two different types of individuals in our community. One is the residential person who lives and maybe works here, and then you're talking to business owners. What are
Yes.
you hearing on the residential side? So when you're out talking to just your everyday person in District 28, what are their top issues?
In the four precincts that I have talked to, over almost 700 people, the majority of them do not like the condition of our infrastructure. And it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't have to be roads when I talk about infrastructure. It can be teacher's salary. It can be not enough of, fire protection or police presence in the area. There's just not enough of funds with the amount of development going on, especially along Ashmore Bridge Road, especially around Ranch Road and those areas. There's so much development going on that it's going too fast, and we're not being able to keep up with the development. But what we need to do is be smarter about it,
Mm-hmm.
and we need to. I have solutions on my website about it. That I've came up with. I feel like it's the best option. A lot of these local governments, have zoning, and they annex this subdivision, this neighborhood, and neighborhood over here. It's so blotchy that it's starting to hurt the county because you're taking away county funds when you annex individual neighborhoods. And not only will the county suffer, but the entire area will suffer because there's just not enough of funds in that area to keep up with the production of homes and businesses.
Well, before we move on, tell us a little bit. I know they can go to your website, and we're going to
Right.
give that at the end of the
Okay.
show. But tell me, what is your solution? What do you think you can do about that?
Well, honestly, it's took some time to get to this point, but what we've been doing is not working. I feel like we need to initiate an impact fee for these developers, for these investors that come in and buy these land. The old golf course, the corner of Ashmore and Fork Shows Road. That's a long time golf course is now a huge subdivision, and I'm not against progress, but I believe in smart progress. I
Mm-hmm.
believe in uh, progress that we can, manage.
Mm-hmm.
Uncontrolled progress leads to safety concerns among the community. And initializing an impact fee for these developers will not only ensure that we can have adequate roads and stoplights, but we can actually have enough of pay to afford for the teachers' pay to increase,
Mm-hmm.
even to bring money to the school boards, and even to bring money to the first responders who really need a desperate pay raise with all these influx of citizens moving.
Mm-hmm.
And believe it or not, the U.S. Census came out in 2022, and a report came out that we are now our migration to the state of South Carolina has now exceeded the birth rates in this state. So not only are we receiving people from out of state, we now need to protect our values more than ever, because you got to remember the opposing party, where it's not great in other states, bring their ideologies down here,
Yes.
and we need to safeguard our values down
Mm-hmm.
here.
Well, let me go back to your impact fee, and I'm not saying I'm for or against it,
Right,
but
right.
I want to throw this out real
Okay.
quick. I do see it as a way to bring additional funding,
Hmm.
absolutely. But what do you say to those builders and then the consumers who say, because what's going to happen is, and I worked for a builder
Right,
as a
right.
real estate agent, and what happens typically with the impact fees is they pass that on in the cost of the homes, which means either the homes slow down in sales, and or you get builders who don't come into town, and or now home buyers are having to pay more for a house. So how would
Right,
you counteract that
right. Well, right
stand?
now, the new homeowners are already paying more in their home with inflation rates upwards 7% right now.
Hmm.
Interest rates are around what, like 6 or 7%
Six, 7% and
right
up,
now.
yes.
So you're already paying excessive amount of money on inflation and on buying a home, but eventually you're going to have to look at what you see here. Yes, the homeowner, yes, the developers might pay, pass it on to the home, but it's only a one-time fee.
Hmm.
It's only a one-time impact fee. And not only will, you're moving to this state, you're moving to this area, and I feel like with lower income tax, you would cover at least cover the development of our area.
Gotcha. And it helps invest in the infrastructure, as you
Absolutely.
mentioned
Yes.
earlier.
Yes.
I know I just saw on the news this morning about someone who hit a huge pothole in Greenville County,
Right.
and they were saying how it destroyed their tires. So I'm sure that, potholes are something that you're definitely hearing as you're going
Oh,
out in the community too.
absolutely. The worst road I've been on was probably Old Log Shows Road, the Fork Shows Road. That's like the surface of the moon out there. You know, you driving down
That's a
there,
great analogy, the
yeah,
surface of the moon.
you driving down that road, you feel like you're driving the rover on the moon or in
Hmm.
Mars or something. It is so rough through that road, and not over that, you got low hanging branches and trees in the
Hmm.
way. I mean, granted the county might take over, but the county needs help with the rural infrastructure fund,
Yeah.
and stuff like that.
Well, thank you for sharing that with us from the residential side. Now, what about on the business side? You're out knocking on doors of businesses as well, I'm assuming.
Yes, yes.
So, what are you hearing from the businesses that their concerns
Well,
are right now?
I've talked to quite a few business owners from steel manufacturing to smoke and vape shops, all the way down to the bars and venues and places, restaurants that serve alcohol. And that's one big issue they all have is tort reform,
Hmm.
and has not yet been addressed yet this session. And I know it was promised that it'll be the first thing on the agenda, but it has not been reached yet. We definitely need tort reform. We needed it before I was even born.
Mm.
And back in 2018, there was a House bill that passed that required anyone that sold alcohol sales between a certain amount of hours that had to have at least a $1 million policy just to serve alcohol. and
Hmm.
and that's, I mean, that is suffocating for small business. I mean, small businesses cannot survive paying a high insurance, high ABL licenses,
Hmm.
insurance. And that's one thing we really need to address right now, is really to help these small businesses out that serve alcohol. And in these, and for example, the vape shops, going to the vape shops, the law is so vague right now on what they can sell and what they cannot sell, that basically, you can you might have something that's illegal that you don't know,
Hmm.
but you might not have nothing illegal, but you still get raided and everything takes out. The law is so vague, and we need to get together and clear up this law for them because they're losing business and losing profits because of that. And of course, I want to mention the roofing industry too. There was a law that passed in Florida. I'm not sure if if you followed it, but uh, remember when Farmers Insurance left the state of Florida? The
Yes.
reason why farmers left was because, of course, that's like the hurricane city down there, and well, the homeowners insurance companies came to the state and they said, look, we can't honor all these policies
Hmm.
because we have roofers that's going out on the field and they're checking roofs and saying they're finding issues with them, and then we have to send people and then we have to fix the roof. Well, in the way I see it, roofers are actually helping homeowners find issues with their, roof, and homeowners insurance should pay for it because it's in their policy and they should cover it. And it in each policy for farmers, for example, that if they do not end up repairing the roof in 90 days, they can foreclose and take your home. So I kind of see the roofing industry taking care of homeowners that way.
Hmm.
But there was a Senate bill that passed in the House of Florida and in the Senate of Florida that they end up cannot do that. They would either get fined or imprisoned by going door to door asking to look at your roof. And
Hmm.
that's not only hurting business, that's risking your investment of your home in case something worse happens. And I promise that will not happen here. I will not bring any kind of bills from other states that are hurting businesses to South
Hmm.
Carolina. And that's the safeguard. I want to be the safeguard for small business and independent businesses. And a few of them on the field out while I was campaigning also doesn't understand why bigger corporations get tax incentives, and that's something that has happened forever. For example, Amazon and BMW and ZF Transmission
Hmm.
and stuff like that, they get tax incentives to come in here because they bring so many jobs. But we're in competition with other states in the southeast that actually go up and try to get these jobs, so we have to sweeten the pot, as you can say.
Right, to bring them in.
But Mom and Pop, for example, is an alliance here in the upstate in Greenville, working hard to try to protect small businesses and independent businesses, and even the NFIB does the
Yes.
same thing. And while I was looking into that, why can't we offer incentives to small businesses too? To
Yes.
help them out, to kind of they don't have to be the huge tax incentives that the bigger corporations get, but at least give them something.
Well, I can tell you as a small business owner myself, any small break is a huge break to a small business.
Right.
I mean, any small break.
Right.
And so, you know, I believe that local small businesses are important to communities, and we see so many of them go out of business because they struggle with the financial aspect of running a
Yeah.
small business. They don't have the backing like a large corporate who opens up a new business. So I agree we do need to bring those large companies in because they bring jobs, but
Hmm.
I would love to see our representatives do something for small
Right.
businesses.
Right. And you would get some pushback on that too,
Hmm.
because a lot of people do not like giving tax incentives to anyone.
Hmm.
There, but there was a couple of years ago a bill that came out that was pushed, but didn't that is now tabled. It's just setting them underneath other bills.
Hmm.
There was a request to start a committee to actually look into that, to look into how much of our tax money is benefiting from that tax incentive that we gave Amazon, for example, or we gave Proterra, which
Hmm.
isn't really doing too good right now. But we gave them tax incentives. But we tried to start a committee that would look into that, try to see if we're getting our investment back with that tax incentive. But when I get to the house, I want to dust that off and try to bring that up because I am a numbers guy. I want to
Mm.
see how good my investment of my tax incentive is going to BMW. And honestly, BMW's probably done return four folds for us for our
Right.
tax incentives. But these other companies, how they're doing, and I just want to see how. I want to see the numbers,
Mm-hmm.
and there was, like I said, there was a committee that was proposed, but it just got buried under,
Mm-hmm.
other paperwork. But I would like to see that committee come back to life.
Yeah. And I would like to say to our listeners, if you are a small business, I definitely encourage you to check out NFIB and then also Mom and Pop,
Hmm.
which also both of those organizations, one's more local,
Hmm.
one's more national, but they actually look out for and fight for small businesses and government.
Absolutely.
So when the government's trying to push through incentives that can impact you on a negative basis, that's a great way to have
Hmm.
that organization looking out for you. Plus, you can stay updated on what's happening in the legal realm.
Right.
The other question I wanted to ask you is about running for office. What are some of your challenges in running for office? We were talking earlier that, the cost of just putting signs out,
Right.
so how are you getting the word out? How's the best way for you to do that? And how can our listeners help you?
Right. Basically, the hardest thing so far, of course, is money. Is always money. I've had several donors to me, and I mean, I haven't had nowhere as near as many as incumbents get. Of course, if you want to donate, I could always, use some money to help me for gas, because believe me, I travel and I go to your door. If you're a primary voter, I'm going to your door, and like I said, the hardest challenge would probably be, gas and time. I'm a senior, senior in college, Grand Canyon University. I'm
Ah,
actually trying to finish this year and campaign this year, and I got 3 kids, so I'm balancing that and the housework. So I'm doing all that. So time and money. But I feel like I started early enough, and I feel like that I'm making progress, in the campaign. But I'm always looking for encouragement,
hmm.
and I'm always looking for prayers. I'm always looking for that neighbor that you come across that says, I appreciate what you're doing. I appreciate what you're doing. It's really encouraging, because I'm probably less than 1% in this country that I'm the nut that's running for the office. I'm the crazy one running for office, because I want to be that. I want to be that representative that makes a difference for my community. I want to be that person that protects our values here in South Carolina, and just get even the email encouragement. It goes a long way for me, and sometimes I get discouraged. Sometimes I get the door shut in my face, and,
Hmm.
oh, we're not interested, or I'm a Democrat. What are you doing here? I got something to tell you, and it gives me the wave that I can't wave right now. So, but like I said, it's nice to get encouragement, and that's, I think, that the difficult time is you come across some people like that, and you should just go to the next door,
Hmm.
brush yourself off and go to the next door.
Well, I think in America, we've kind of lost the ability to have conversation, even if we disagree in the conversation or the topic. But, I think our listeners, everybody can either call,
Hmm.
email, or
Hmm.
encourage you. And prayer is something we can all do in the privacy of our
Yeah.
home, morning, noon, or night. And
Right.
so hopefully our listeners will do that for you. Well, Daniel, I think I want to cover two quick things before we go for today. But one is a lot of people don't tend to vote unless it's a presidential election. So can you tell our listeners why is it important that people vote for positions like the House and the Senate, and even your sheriff or your coroner? Why is it important?
Absolutely. Every public office deserves your view on how you view that office. It is, I believe, voting is your responsibility as a citizen of this great country of ours, a citizen of this state. Your only duty is to vote. Your only duty is to go and research the candidates and find the candidate that reflects your values. That's it. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
that's it. That's all that you are required to do to live in this great country. That and to pay taxes. But it's your civil duty, and you should have pride in that. We're a part of the greatest country here
Mm.
in the world. We go to work, we come home and be with our families, and we go to bed, and that's it. I mean, in other places, you can't do that. You go to Russia, you go to, Iran, you go to even, China. They don't have that. They're always worried about if the state to come knocking on my door and barge in and take my land. You
Mm-hmm.
can't, here we can pick our candidates in the ballot box. You can go there. I mean, you just have to find that passion. You have to find that pride, that you go into, close those, well, it used to be blinds, but now you just go in there and turn your back. But like I said, it's just pride, that's why you should vote. I mean, you live in this great county, this great state, and you should have pride.
Yes. So for our listeners who maybe have never registered,
Mhm.
maybe they're 19 or they
Right.
just turned 18 and they get to vote in this next election, or maybe they're 50 and they've never voted
Right.
before. Can you tell our listeners how do you get signed up to vote? How do you register?
Well, you can go to one. You can do it online now. You can go to scvotes.gov. You go on there and you can do it online. You just need your driver's license, I believe, and then Turbo. I believe we talked a little
Turbo
earlier.
Vote is another
Turbo
way.
Vote, yeah,
Yes.
and Turbo Vote is a great means of communication. Basically, it lets you know when the voting dates are coming, lets you know who's running, lets you know how to register and where your voting place is.
Yes.
So Turbo Vote is a great application to use, and like I said, it would be great.
I think there's even some churches who bring in organizations that'll help you sign up if you don't know how to do that. So
Absolutely.
if your church isn't doing that, talk to your pastor and maybe they can
Hmm.
get them to come in. And I just want to say, as a citizen, I consider it an honor to be able to vote. And I don't think I go in. I'm not one of those who go in the ballot box and I just vote straight ticket. I research my candidates because I do want to put people in office who represent my morals and values that I want for myself and my grandchildren, because
Absolutely.
I'm a grandmother. But, I encourage you do have a right not to vote, and you have a right to vote. And I hope that in this election that's coming up, that our folks will decide that they want to have their voices heard and that they'll vote. So, Daniel, how can our folks follow you? You mentioned earlier about you've got some of your platform topics on your website. So tell us how they can follow you.
Right, so you go to my website at danielrumfelt428.com, and I'm sure we'll have that written in the bottom. I also have a Facebook page. We could go like the Facebook page, and I keep updates going on. I keep having articles I publish for all the great people I come across and issues I come across. I posted on my blog, on my website, go read them. I mean, it's interesting stuff I'm finding out. I also started an email campaign this week too. You go up on my website, just put your email, your name, number, your name and email address, and we'll go from there.
Okay, fantastic. And if you would like to contribute financially to Daniel's campaign, maybe you were one of Ashley's campaign donors, we hope that you'll check him out. And if you choose to support him, I'm sure you can do that on your website as well.
Absolutely,
Do
yes,
that on your
ma'am.
website as well. And again, I would like to close by saying if any other political candidate would like to come on, we are not promoting one candidate over the other. Daniel contacted us and we'd love to have you on. Now, Daniel, before you go, I always ask a funny question, and you've listened to some of my.
Yes, I've been waiting for this.
Are you waiting for the question that I normally ask? Have you already thought of what you're going to say?
My mind is running wild right now. I don't know what's about to come out.
You don't know. Well, see, I change up the question a little bit, especially when
Okay.
I know you've been listening to it. So, my question for you is, I'll go ahead and ask since you've listened and you've been thinking about it. But if you were to have one superpower in the whole wide world, if you could choose one, what would it be and why?
Oh, definitely flying. Wow, because there'll be times that I work third shift. I wake up as soon as I come out my bedroom door, the kids are either hitting each other or they're playing rough. Sometimes I just wish I could fly to the mountains,
Fly to the
fly
mountains.
to to Looking Glass Falls, out in the
Ah.
Brevard area. But yeah, sometimes I just wish I could fly.
You wish you could fly.
Yeah.
Well, listen, we are so happy that you joined us today.
Yes.
Thank you for calling, and
Hmm.
I love the information that you shared with us today. You guys check Daniel out, go to his website, and hopefully support him. If you can't do anything else but pray, send him an email,
Please.
or encourage him on Facebook to keep on the good fight. So we want to thank you for joining us today. We are at 864 Sound in Greenville, South Carolina, and the owner, Brandon Higginbotham, has all kinds of services that he provides here at 864 Sound. I always like to just run through them: original music, music production, sound design, voiceovers, podcasting, audio repair, mixing and mastering, and live sound. If you want anything to do with sound engineering, you need to give Brandon a call. We love him and we love coming to his studio. He does a fantastic job for us, and we think he will do one for you as well. Thank you to our listeners for joining. We love to bring these small gems and businesses to you. If you're a local business in the upstate or York County, please reach out to Get Local. We would love to have you on, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks for joining. Bye-bye.
Bye.